Ronnie Floyd is a leader of leaders with a vision to change the world. The 4 Leaders podcast with Ronnie Floyd is committed to investing, inspiring, and influencing your life and leadership today. With a legacy of investing in thousands and thousands of leaders throughout the years who've led in multiple arenas of leadership. Now is the time, and today is the day for Ronnie Floyd to invest, inspire, and influence you in a serious and responsible way. So spread the news and share the 4 Leaders podcast with others around the world. Now, here's your host, Ronnie Floyd.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ronnie Floyd, and you are listening or watching the 4 Leaders podcast. Welcome to episode number 45 of the 4 Leaders podcast. And today's subject is one that I want to share with you, most especially because of the time of where we are today. A season for growth is my subject today. A season for growth. Do you realize that seasons come and seasons go? But we are in a season for growth. Let me share something with you today. It's an important reality, and perhaps it is a tremendous way to introduce and move us straight and direct into the podcast today. The Bible tells us in Psalm chapter 1, verse number 3, that person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. Psalm chapter 1, verse 3. I'm recording this podcast on March 19, 2025. That is exactly when this is releasing today. Tomorrow is a special day. It is every March the 20th, except for leap year. You know why it is? Because a brand new season is occurring. We call it the springtime. The springtime. There is nothing like it. When the birds start singing and the leaves start sprouting and the flowers start blooming, this season is a call for growth. While there are some places still across our nation that have snow on the ground, or frigid temperatures, and may even face blizzard conditions for many of them, the calendar alerts us that still, in this springtime, growth, advancement, change is on the way. And you know, apart from leap year, spring always occurs on the first day of March 20th. We live in Northwest Arkansas today, and we are in the depth of winter. I mean, the leaves are off the trees, unless they're evergreens. And, you know, it just looks dead. The grass looks dead. I mean, I told some guests in our home the other day, if you would just, come back even a month from now, it's going to look completely different because the season of growth is about to happen. and everything is going to start budding. And even yesterday, in relationship to driving somewhere with my wife Gina, I said, look, the leaves look like they're about to start sprouting on the trees. It's quite interesting to see what happens in this season of the year. I believe that the writer David knew in the book of Psalms that life is much like those seasons. It really is. Psalm chapter 1 tells us that when we delight in the Lord's word, what we would call the Bible today, and when we meditate on the Lord's word day and night, that all of a sudden we will be like a tree planted by the streams of water. And so in this season, the scripture promises us that we will grow and we will produce in abundance. Some would call that production in abundance, meaning prosperity. Not always in relationship to matters or things that we might have. It's just that our lives are become blessed. Something happens. God honors his people when his people are willing to labor and to work and to express themselves in those matters of helping other people. You know, spring always reminds me that it's time for change. It's time for growth. It's time for transformation. And, you know, that's so true not only for life itself, but it's true for us personally in relationship to our spiritual life at times, because in our spiritual life, we need to be called to change. In our spiritual life, we need to be called to develop. We need to be called to become all God wants us to be in life. Don't you agree? And sometimes the change helps spurt that, helps motivate it, becomes the impetus for it. I mean, we experience the same kind of dynamic at the last of December on post-Christmas, and we're about to enter a new year. We are sensing that something new is going to happen. And we will see the same thing in days to come when we begin to feel the heated temperatures of the summer season and move into summer. And then we will see it in the fall of the year as well, with the changing of the leaves and the falling of the leaves. And so, you know, spring is a time for rejoicing, and spring is a time for hope, and spring is a time for us to understand that things are changing and moving and growth is happening. You know, just as in a business or a church or an organization, we go through seasons. We know that. Our families go through seasons. It's part of it. And sometimes as leaders, you know, we ought to use these seasons to remind people. Perhaps you could use this to remind your employees. You could use it to remind your stockholders. You could use it to remind your members that change and growth and transformation are all a part of life. And this is true for us spiritually, and it's true for us practically. It's true for us in the workplace. It's true for those who do ministry, and it's true for those in the world of education. It's true for those in the world of politics. It's true for those that are in corporate America and out here working manual labor jobs. Doesn't matter who we are and where we are. It's a time for change and time for transformation to go on. But boy, when we enter into that and we know that, I just want to urge you today to understand clearly that as your spiritual life goes, so goes the rest of your life. That's right. Because it all comes down to what is happening in your life and what God is teaching you and what you are implementing about your faith to be all God wants you to be. I believe the big picture today is that I want you to begin to believe that God really does want you to be fruitful. He really does. And I believe seasons come into our life to help us be fruitful. There are times that we are purged. There are times that we are cut back, all for God to use it for greater fruitfulness in days to come. I believe that the Lord wants us, just as the Epistle of John talks about, in relationship to living a life of prospering. And we've talked about how, just think what it would be for him when he was praying and saying, may you prosper even as your soul prospers. So we know that phrase, even while it might be abused in the world today, it was not abused like that then. And that's never what anybody was speaking about. They're talking about your soul prospering, your life prospering, and being whatever God wanted it to be. Change, growth, transformation. Listen, these are the keys to the fruitful and a prosperous life. So what does all that mean? And how do we live this out in our personal life? And how do we live it out at the workplace? And how do we live it out at the family? Again, we're talking about a season for growth. And I want you to begin to imagining today, this is a season for me to grow. If you've been sidelined, you've been hurt, you've walked through the loss of a loved one, if you have found yourself depressed due to various things in life, or maybe you felt like you were set aside or ignored, or perhaps you've been so busy doing things you've not even stopped since you started work at the first week of January. I'm calling you today, and I'm asking you today, and I'm appealing to you today. I want you to see this as a season for growth. Spring will happen. And yes, it will look different depending on where you are located. But spring is a time for growth, and it will look different for you in your life. It will look different for others in their lives. But let's talk about personally. I wonder how God could use this season for growth for you spiritually. What is it that you desire God to do? Have you stopped long enough to even think about what you might want to believe God for? What the Lord is putting on your heart? Is there anything? What will you do to advance your faith in this moment? I mean, let's just take a 90-day segment. Let's just say for the next 90 days, what is your plan to grow and to be more fruitful and to be more prosperous in your walk with the Lord? And then, not only is it a personal call for moving your life up spiritually, but it's also a personal call for you to move your life up practically. What needs to change about your life? What needs to change about what's going on in you? There are days of the lives and the days of the week that we feel enormous pressure. There are times that we walk through times when and moments when it's very challenging. It seems like we cannot get a hold of it. It seems like there are so many things pulling on us at one time. We just need to come to a screeching halt and say, whoa, let me bring things into order. I know there's some moms and some dads out here today. You've been racing after your children all of these months. You've been involved in all sorts of athletic events. You've been taking them to experience this, and you've been taking them to experience that. And you know what? Could it be a season for change in relationship to how you organize that? How you live that out and serve them, or whatever it is you may be doing. Personally, our lives are affected, and we need to use this as a time for change, a time for growth, a time for transformation. All those things are positive. And I wonder about your family. We talked about it personally a little bit. What about your family? How's your family going to grow over the next 90 days spiritually? Will you be regular in your church? Or will you be too busy with matters that you go run and do because the weather's changed? We need to be regular in our church. We need to be regular with our walk with Jesus Christ. Perhaps the cold weather, if you've been in that cold weather, maybe it's made you chill out in your spiritual life a little bit too much. Well, it's spring. It's time to grow. It's time to get back up into the saddle and take your spiritual life really, really important, not only for yourself, but for your family. Will you do that? Listen, get your family involved in spiritual things and motivate them to do it. And even a family also in relationship to this season for growth. I mean, functionally, how is that going to happen? What position are you going to put your family in to win over the next 90 days that you haven't done over the previous 90 days? What could you functionally change? What could you functionally adjust to put your family into a moment of greater growth for the future of your family? I think one of those things can be the experiences that we share together. There's nothing like families having time together and walking through various experiences, whether those may come with an activity, with a sporting event, with something, perhaps with a trip over the weekend, or even over a break that may come in days to come. I don't know what that means for you, and I don't know how you need to live your life out. All I'm simply doing is raising the banner today, and I'm telling you, listen, we're in a new season, and in this season, it's a time to be fruitful. It's a time to grow. It's a time to change. It's a time to transform and to be everything we need to be, not only personally, but even in our family. And most of you are in the workplace, real life workplace. We've talked about personal lives. We've talked about family. Let's talk about workplace before we close the podcast today. What are you emphasizing at the workplace? How will you live out what we've talked about in the workplace? It's a season to grow. It's a time to grow. How can I impact my workplace over the next 90 days in a positive way? Maybe the winter season has really challenged you. Maybe the season of the past has really challenged you because of various things at the job. But why don't you use this as a new time, a new moment, even when spring really begins to bud in your region of the country or the world, that all of a sudden it will remind you that, man, I need to be more the kind of follower of Christ that is even um, bearing fruit in the workplace and really being more what God wants me to be. I realize the pressures are massive. I know they're great. They are. And the workplace can be very ruthless. It can be rewarding at times, but it can also be very intimidating and challenging, and even in certain moments, condemning. But this is a season for growth. So rise up. Rise up not only on your spiritual life, but how can you use this brand new season at the workplace to call people up? Perhaps plan an activity for them together. Perhaps, do something to motivate them into having greater fruitfulness in life. Maybe just a good motivational talk will do that. I don't know. Perhaps attending a conference together will help that and become an impetus for the future. But whatever it may be, use this time and let everyone know at your workplace, spring is here. We are in a new season of life. And we at our company, we at our school, we at whatever we do and in the workplace, we are committed to all be what we need to be in a brand new way. And remind people, yes, this is a time for change. Change is good. If you see change as an enemy, don't see it as an enemy. It obviously can challenge you at times, but change is good. And it's a time for growth. And every one of us, we've gone through changes in our lives, changes in our bodies, changes in relationship to our family. And all those changes have ended up being times for growth, times for development, times for even what we say transformation. Keys to a prosperous and fruitful life. That's what we really want. I mean, when it's really over, don't you want to be fruitful? Don't you want to leave something behind? Don't you want to make deposits in people's lives that will continue to bring prosperity for future generations? Don't you want to do something to make a difference that will be so indelible that those in the future will never forget it? And those in the future will realize it even greater than when you are alive. I don't understand how all this works. I really don't. But I tell you one thing I understand. God gave us seasons for a reason. And because He gives seasons for a reason, I believe one of those reasons is to remind us of the positive nature of change, the positive nature of growth, and the positive nature of transformation. There's nothing like it. I hope that this season will move you forward to be energetic, fruitful, prosperous, blessed, encouraging, and to look past all the fray and to rise up and to say, these are moments of change. These are moments of growth, and these are moments of transformation. I believe if you will give that kind of talk to your workplace, it will bring joy and refreshment to other people. Always remember, we're here to help you. Always remember, we're here to call you up. Always remember, we are with you. And anything that I can do, I would love to do to help you in the future. May God be with you in a powerful way this week, and enjoy the change, and enjoy the growth, and enjoy the transformation that God really does want to bring in your life, in your family, in your workplace, and in every realm of life. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in. For more information on Ronnie Floyd, go to 4leaders.com. We'll see you next time.